So my name is Franck Boudinet. I'm the CTO of the IBM Garage for Europe. And I'm going to drive through a couple of slides to present what the IBM Garage is about and give some examples to hopefully make it even more concrete. Next slide, please, Nicolas. So I'm sure you would agree with me who do not aspire to any of these points here on that slide. You know, modernizing application, delivering innovation to the business and value, base a lot of new decision on data, and of course, be secure, be resilient, not jeopardizing the future of our company. So next slide, please. Digital transformation is, as we all know, at the heart of our enterprises, on the top item in the agenda. And innovation that digital transformation can bring can touch on many core and important aspects of our enterprises, unlocking new opportunities, building customer loyalty, optimizing the business, gaining efficiencies, and also reducing risks. Next slide, please. So, as we all know, technology is a key part of this transformation. And here are some figures about how important this is for customers that were asked to answer a survey. 93% of enterprises are building on multi-cloud strategy. 68% on AI. And the pandemic made it even more important, as we can all obviously understand. But, and you can present it, please, Nicolas, a lot of our digital transformation projects today in this industry are failing. Some are saying up to 70% of the project are actually not delivering the value expected by the business. Next slide, please. So that's why we've launched an initiative that maybe some of you have heard of, which we call the IBM Garage. Next slide, please, Nicolas. And so the IBM Garage, as its name says, links to the root of the startup community, being bold, being innovative, and being quick. And sometimes it's even important to be quick to fail fast so that you don't spend too much money on the wrong idea. Innovating and transforming quickly helps you to validate your idea, to validate your hypothesis, and is the way to impact the business in a real and significant way with concrete results. So that's why we found doing project with IBM Garages. And as Jean-Michel said, we are now expanding the use of the IBM Garage method and the IBM Garage approach with our top clients across the world. Let's move on, please. So a garage is not something complex. I'm sure some of you may recognize this contract and even may think that you already apply it today, but let me describe it to you and maybe explain how we think it's a little bit different from what maybe others have been doing, or what our customers are doing today. So first of all, it is all about co-creation. So we are working as partners together with our clients, and not necessarily taking it from a top-down approach, but very often with a bottom-up approach. So working with the project manager, working with the architects, working with the developers, working with the data scientists at our customer, but very importantly, working under the guidance of a sponsor who is mandating the team, join IBM and customer team, to work on a strategic opportunity for the business. Those teams can be relatively small, as you can see here, 4 to 8 people, sometimes let's say a dozen of people maximum, and they're going to work on the infrastructure of the customer. Should that be on-prem? Should that be on the public cloud of the market that you can see here on that slide? And using IBM technology and using the garage approach, including specialists like site reliability engineering, how you manage in a more effective way a solution in production how you deliver the solution much faster with DevOps techniques. So all are focusing on the creation of a minimum viable product. So a minimum viable product is here to validate a set of hypotheses, as I said before, as fast as possible, investing as little as possible to actually prove the value of the idea. And like in most of the agile method, the team works together on a backlog of prioritized stories. And the good news is that the customer is in control. Every day, the product owner at the customer can decide to reorient the project, to pivot, as we say. So obviously, you don't want to pivot every day, otherwise you're not going to move. But this does not happen. Pragmatism and human nature makes that this is very effective. And we've seen the results. So next slide, please. So the principle, the core principle under this approach are the way you work, transformative practices, opening for ideas, aggregating people from various horizons, with various levels in the company, with various mission, but all working together with the IBM designer and architect to come up with creative idea. Empowering the team, very important. Making the team working towards a common objective, bringing the best talent from IBM, designers, architects, developers, specialists, and working with the technology, again, as I said, in the customer environment to quickly prove the point, to quickly materialize the idea in something concrete, a solution that the customer can use, a web portal that an employee can access to, functions that helps to have a better visibility on the supply chain, you name it. So very concrete things that are aligned with a vision, but that represent the first step to move forward. And like I said, to validate that you are in the right directions. Next slide, please. So let me give you just a couple of examples. And I voluntarily took example coming from small company as well as example coming from large corporation. So this first one is actually coming from a small company out of Belgium who specialize in operating a preventive predictive maintenance solution for rotating machine. And some of their customers are actually companies operating wind farm, as we can see on this picture. So this is already very innovative and modern in a sense, doing predictive maintenance solutions. But still, this company wanted to go one step behind on a couple of aspects. Next slide, please. So the solution they had was based on a client-server Windows-based solutions, collecting data from the wind farm, analyzing those data with analytics that they had built over the year that actually represented most of the value of this company. The human being, the knowledge of the data scientist, and more generally of the employee of that corporation, plus those analytics represent the core value of these enterprises. So they are very important. But still they were facing scalability issue, not able to cope with the demand. We all know that wind farm, as an example, but this is not the only industrial sector where they operate, is booming. Also, their application was fairly closed. No ability to add new data science technique and algorithm and framework in this closed application. No ability to expose the data through API to their customer. And we all know that to bring value, automation, integration is sometimes super important. So not being able to expose this data efficiently was an issue. And also what I call technical debt. They were using some framework inside that Windows-based application that became obsolete. So they decided to look at it. But first of all, they sat down and through a design thinking session, they looked at the area, the use cases that would drive the more value for them. One of them, as an example, was to recognize that some of their customers were ready to buy a SaaS offering of this solution, buying it as a service. But they also recognize that some others, big company usually, where they could sell huge contract, they were looking at solution they could install either on-premise or on their cloud of choice. Should that be Azure, Amazon, and Google? So for them, having an open solution that could deploy on all these type of environment, being dedicated for a customer or shared as a SaaS services among several customers was a very important point, if not the most important point. They also wanted to remove some of the issue I just mentioned before, being able to open the solution through API, being able to add new machine learning capabilities, and also they wanted to do, quote unquote, a little bit of marketing by being able to say, you, Mr. Customer, you're going to be able to talk to your machine. So that's why they decided, but let me tell you already, this is mostly a marketing thing. They implemented with us a chatbot so that people could talk to their wind farm, for example, and very quickly identify which machine was having a problem. And of course, in this business, it's super important to be able to predict the failure. It can cost 10 times less and takes 20 times shorter to actually fix a problem before it occurs. Because if you have to stop a wind farm and change a big part at the top of the wind farm, you can imagine it can quickly take 20 days compared to, let's say, 1 day or half a day just to repair a small little part in advance because you've detected, analyzing the vibration of the rotating machine, that you may have a failure in a couple of days from now. So those features, they were quickly implemented with a team of 7 people. Next slide, please. Reusing, like I said, the core value of this company, which was those Python analytics, expanding their capabilities or enabling the expansion of their capabilities with new machine learning based on Watson ML system. And this was really a co-creation with designers, architects, 1 data scientist, and a couple of developers from IBM, working with the product owner within that company, data scientist of that company, and 1 developer. Through a design thinking workshop, like I said before, and an architecture workshop, quickly, in few days, the MVP priorities, use cases, and architecture was actually defined. And the week after, the MVP implementation started for 8 weeks, and the solution was rolled out first as a pilot on a wind farm in Belgium, and is now being industrialized, and is the solution now of that corporation. So you can see in 8 weeks, with a small team, they could make a complete move, complete transition, modernizing the application, proving the possibility to do it by implementing it for real on a pilot. Next slide, please. So this is just an example. I could bring hundreds of them. Let me take another one that is quite recent. A large insurance company, a global one, with teams all over the world, is modernizing its application landscape. Probably not at the pace that one would expect. They today have roughly 20% of their application that are sort of cloud native, most of them running on Kubernetes / OpenShift type of infrastructure deployed on the public cloud of the market, as well as on-premise. And they did that because a lot of their business unit actually started this journey to the cloud. And also their IT department did the same. But they realized that this was done in a complete disorder, potentially jeopardizing the security of some of these applications, as well as the compliance. As you know, insurance is a highly regulated industry, and they decided to launch an initiative to actually be able to manage the security and the compliance, as well as the monitoring of all their applications worldwide, running on all those clouds, public clouds of the market, using Kubernetes and OpenShift mostly as a common layer, and using a central platform based on one of the IBM Cloud Pak in order to achieve this security and compliance that they need to provide to the business. The project started again as an MVP with a set of stories, co-creating with the customer. And here, the point I want to make is, one could say, okay, this approach is good for small project, But in fact, we've proven now with many customers that we can implement huge projects which span across multiple teams, which can be of more than 100 millions of value, and still deliver using this MVP approach those projects by implementing incrementally the solutions, reducing the risk, bringing one MVP after the other, new functions, new value, new non-functional requirement as well, so that at some point, one of the incremental MVP is ready for full production. And then you continue with SRE practice to iterate and improve the solution over time. It's proven to be more effective, delivering faster value, reducing the cost and the risk of failure by having this approach. So that's why we've decided, next slide please, to roll out now the IBM Garage approach with many of our customers, including in the pre-sales phase, because we realize what is written in that slide. It brings a lot of value, not only around innovation, but also speed and value with the ROI number you can see on that slide. And this is a study made by Forrester about this approach, looking at, like I said, hundreds of projects that we've delivered in a fee-based way, let's be honest. Now we're talking, like I said, about expanding and even using this as part of the pre-sales approach with some of our best clients. Move on, please. So I want to go fast now and just drive you quickly through the steps that we've defined. Again, experiencing this method and this approach with customer, starting with an idea sometimes, or even unfolding the ideas or the art of the possible through a framing session, drilling down into the ideas and making them real and concrete through discovery sessions, and finally selecting the best one through solutioning workshops. Those are optional. Sometimes the customer may have a very precise idea, a very concrete plan, but is just not able to start quickly, or maybe even sometimes has tried and failed. So we can start immediately with a scoping session and then implement through MVP build iteration, a concrete solution implementing some of these ideas. Again, the first 3 steps are optional. The 2 last are typically the one that are making the solution concrete, making it live, so that you can after that scale and go into production after either a first MVP or a series of MVPs, like I said before, with an incremental approach. Next slide, please. So coming back to what I just said, there are various entry points. You'll have those slides, you can look at them. We can start very early in the process, and we can also enter into the game, like I said, when the customer has already defined strategy, defined the first solutions he wants to implement. What is important here is speed, is co-creation, is permanent validation. And obviously, DevOps technique, where you continuously build the solution, helps us doing that so that the product owner can validate and pivot, as I said before, to redirect the project in the right directions, implementing the functions that matters, or implementing them the preferred way of the customer to avoid what the so well-known tunnel effect. Next slide, please. So this being said, if you have a compelling or urgent business opportunity, we can probably help you. We can do that with your platform, with your data, working with your people, with your team. And we can bring the technology to quickly implement these MVPs with the Garage team, co-creating together the future of your business. So thanks for listening. I'm now open for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Franck. Are there any questions in this, out of this virtual room?
We have multiple questions from Johnny Ostergaard, and I will open his line. Johnny, I open your line because you have quite a multiple question for Franck.
Yeah, so first question, I'm going to read the question. In my organization, we are currently running code developed in the second half of 1960s, covering 1970 and forward, written in COBOL. How does your need fit into your view of the future for us? Great question. I love it. And I tell you why. Because, and I won't mention in names, unfortunately, I hope I will be able by the end of the year, and actually maybe before. So I am currently, believe it or not, working with a big bank in Europe exactly on that topic. And I'll tell you a little story quickly. So they worked with a well-known system integrator of the market, trying to disengage from the mainframe. And by no means I'm a mainframe person, but I am an IBMer and I know the value of mainframe, but I'm not in that organization. But I tell you, this customer, unfortunately for him, miserably failed because they tried to move the core banking on a distributed system, and after a few years, they failed. And so what they are now doing, because they realized that in fact, there was almost no ROI in doing what they tried to do, but there would be some in moving some of the non-critical workload off the mainframe, engaging on using DevOps techniques. And you can do that today with OpenShift, running, for example, CICS TX on cloud. And sorry to name products here, but you can run this component on an OpenShift cluster. And then you can offload some of the workload from the mainframe, actually still using COBOL, because this customer realized that he would not find value in rewriting some of these applications. So it's one part of the equation. It's not the full answer. But this first part of the equation is, okay, I'm able to optimize my infrastructure cost, my software cost, and I'm able to embark on DevOps technique to be more agile toward my business by implementing DevOps technique either on the mainframe or for the non-critical workload, running them on an OpenShift cluster outside. And then in parallel, they are also innovating by using, in that case, the Cloud Pak for Data and some of our AI Watson functions in order to augment their existing application, COBOL application, but invoking external services that are running, in this case, on-premise, because this customer wants things to run on-premise. And good news, we can do that with the Cloud Pak installed again on top of OpenShift locally, with their data being again on the mainframe, but implementing AI algorithm and machine learning neural network to add new AI capability to their legacy application. So it was a long answer for a short question, but I think my answer, yes, can be yes. I think we can help you, Mr. Ostergaard.